Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We are live. I want to thank you all for joining me today on Election Day. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat. And then we can get today's show started as I'm waiting for the ones to come in. As usual, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel and get their notifications. And it also helps to push this video forward through the YouTube algorithm. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, always watching my videos and live streams, but not subscribing, please do me a favor and yourself a favor by hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, that does help to give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the ones now starting to come in, we can get the show started. We can get it started. And oh, yes, lastly, follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is pinned in the live chat right now. It's in the description box below and will be pinned in the comment section as well once the stream ends. That is extremely important to circumvent censorship, especially the censorship that we can expect to see coming forward if Kamala Harris does win this election. So hopefully you all went out and voted today. I'm not going to give you that generic, I hope you all guys, everybody, you went out and you voted, just go out and vote. No, that's too generic. It's Trump 2024 over here. Okay, so I hope you all went out there and voted for Donald Trump. Okay, that's what you should have done today, just like I did before I started the show. So let's get into it, man. The meat of this show is concerning the caravan of 5,000 migrants that are currently headed to the border right now as we speak on election day in the hopes to cross before a possible Trump presidency, right? In which the border obviously will be shut down immediately. And a Trump presidency just basically means the end of the migrant crisis. So the gravy train will have officially come to an end. So you have folks that are rushing to get here before that possibly happens, which I hope that it does, right? I hope that it does happen. But before we get into that, I do want to touch on a few things concerning the fact that we are not going to get a winner today, and we most likely aren't going to get a winner of this election, possibly for the next maybe even 2 weeks, right? Maybe even 2 weeks. And I want to go through a couple of the states and what they've had to say concerning election results, only because I found it very interesting. And some of the stuff in states I've gone through already, and I'm going to go through them very quickly. But I just find it very interesting that this is really the first election that I've seen where so many states preemptively were have gotten the public ready, telling them ahead of time, look, if you're expecting us to give you the results of this election anytime soon, don't expect it, right? It's not coming the day of. For some places, it may take up to a week to even close to 2 weeks to get final election results. Many of you remember, because I did cover this, I believe it was about 2 to 3 weeks ago, maybe close to a month ago now, on Face the Nation. The Secretary of State in Michigan said it should take roughly around 24 hours. The Secretary of State in Georgia said they may not have the results of this year's election in Georgia up until possibly Friday, because Friday is the last day that they will be accepting mail-in ballots coming from abroad, coming from overseas. What many of you may not know, I have covered on this channel, but if you're not subscribed and you're new to the channel, you might not know this. That's why you should be subscribed. This is the first year that the DNC has actually invested in voters abroad, in making sure American citizens who live overseas vote in this year's election, because they calculated that there's roughly around, if I remember correctly, 1.6 million Americans living abroad that are from the coveted swing states that everyone wants to grab in order to win this election. So they've invested millions of dollars in those votes abroad. So we can expect, I would say, a normal larger than most election years of voter ballots coming from abroad, coming into the United States, a larger number than what we normally get coming in. Therefore, in Georgia, once again, they're stating that it could take anywhere up to a week, this Friday, if possibly not longer, to get the results because they're waiting for those overseas ballots to come in. So if we thought there were shenanigans the first time around with mail-in ballots, whew, we'll see what type of shenanigans occurred as we're waiting for the overseas ballots to get here, right? We also have this going on over here. Florida, they let us know way ahead of time back in August. Remember, I covered this, and Ron DeSantis blasted them for this. Philadelphia let us know way back in August that if you're expecting any type of same-day results, you can forget about it. That's not happening anytime soon. We'll get you the results whenever we decide to get them to you. Here's another. I want to go over this right now very quickly too. Election results could take up to 13 days in Maricopa County. Maricopa County, that's in Arizona. They're looking at possibly 13 days before they get their final results over there. And Arizona is one of those coveted battleground states. You know, one of the reasons that they say it's going to be a while is because what we have here is a new law that went in place that said this is the first time that it's going to require poll workers to wait for the polls to close. Afterwards, they need to hand count all the green envelope ballots that were dropped off. The ballots are then delivered to the election center where the signatures are verified and the votes counted. Now that isn't a bad thing. I think that sounds great. But another reason here, I kind of found this a little comical, that it's going to take close to 13 days apparently to count all these ballots in Maricopa County is because simply the ballot is too long. The ballot is just way too long, which I find a little comical. One of the reasons involves the rather long ballot Maricopa County voters will get. For the first time since 2006 here in Maricopa County, we have a 2-page ballot. And we have races on both sides of those, said Maricopa County Supervisor Bill Gates. It's an interesting name. We're talking about 4 different sides of contests, 79 contests on average. We anticipate it will take people a little bit longer. It's going to take people just a little bit longer. So that's what we can expect there. And also now, kind of to end this segment out in closing, as far as this segment is concerned, we also have this situation here. I thought I had the video pulled up, but I don't. But I'm going to get it up for you right now. I believe it's in Nevada. They're saying now in Nevada as well, it's going to possibly take about a week to get final results in Nevada. Let me play this video here for you right now.
She wins North Carolina.
Let me rewind it back just a little bit. Here's one thing I want to point out because I found this very interesting. I find it very interesting that every time they do these kind of predictive ballots, predictive voting scenarios here, they always make sure to have Kamala winning. Have you ever noticed that? Every time they do this and they're doing their little, voter predictions and electoral college predictions, they always have Kamala winning in the little preview, right? I just found that very interesting. But let's get into this right here. It's a very quick video. I believe, once again, this is concerning Nevada. It should be taking close to a week to get final results over there.
The way I said, so she wins North Carolina. We could be living here in Nevada, waiting and waiting and waiting. And if you remember, Nevada will take a week to count all their votes.
Well, because they go 4 days after.
And you'll have more ballots coming in.
Yeah.
And then you're really going to be used a lot on air because this is going to be lawyers upon lawyers litigating which ballots can get fixed or cured is the language you'll start to see, those provisional ballots. So the nightmare scenario where we're just waiting for weeks, sort of the Florida of 2000.
The Florida of 2000. This is something that I was thinking of as I was washing the dishes last night, And human nature, they have all predicted Kamala to win. Of course, the mainstream media press have all predicted Kamala to win. Of course, they've done that. You know what I mean? That just goes without saying. You can expect that coming from them. I mean, because they've all been campaigning on behalf of Kamala Harris. They've all been campaigning on her behalf, you know, and I've never seen anything like this in terms of how they've all just kind of formed together to push one particular candidate. Obviously, they've all been Democrat leaning, right? But I've never seen anything like this to where they are so aggressively campaigning on behalf of Kamala Harris. The way they've been doing that has been something to me that's been unprecedented. You know, with the aggressiveness, with the way that they've been doing it, so aggressive is my point, right? But I was thinking about this very quickly as I was washing the dishes yesterday. I have a feeling, right? I'm predicting a Trump victory. I'm predicting a Trump victory. And I think that it's going to come down to the Supreme Court. I think it's going to come down to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is going to side with the Trump victory. I think that there's going to be a lot of lawsuits being filed on both sides. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans in play. And you all know what I mean by shenanigans, right? I don't want to say the word that I really want to say. It starts with a C. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans going on. And the way that I see Trump has been winning all these lawsuits recently, and the GOP has been winning all these lawsuits concerning how we saw I forgot what county it was in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania. I want to say Butch County, but I feel like that's all the way wrong, but maybe it's Butch County. What was it? I covered it yesterday, where the poll workers were sending people home because the lines were too long. So Trump and his campaign, they were able to file a lawsuit and win against that county to extend early voting an extra day, because the poll workers literally were sending people home. They said the lines are too long, go home. And if it was left up to those folks in Pennsylvania, then those votes would have just been lost. But fortunately, they were able to sue and get an extra day of early voting. There's been a lot of cases like that. Buck County, thank you very much, Linda. Buck County. There's been a lot of cases like that. Also, like what we've seen happen in Virginia, where Governor Youngkin, where they're winning these cases surrounding shenanigans. I believe that that's what is possibly going to come down to. And the Supreme Court is going to say, yeah, it's a lot of shenanigans going on. And with that, Trump will get the victory. I think that we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a George Bush, Al Gore situation where it's going to come down to the Supreme Court. I think that's what's going to happen. Especially if this race is as tight as they say it's supposed to be, especially if that's the case. And when you factor in the shenanigans that are in play, it's going to come down to the Supreme Court, and Trump's going to get the victory there. And I will be very happy about that. I will be very, very happy about that. Shout out to my man, El Fenici. El Fenici said, with the technology we have, this should be done with an app. Plug in your social security number, and that's it. That's what's hard, right? Like I don't necessarily disagree with that per se. But at the same time, when you think and considering like hacking and things of that nature, and the way in which, you know, the app can be manipulated and hacked into, and votes could possibly be changed, like that's what makes it so hard. That's what makes it so hard for me to really be 100% on board with that. That's what makes it really hard for me to be 100% on board with that. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I don't necessarily disagree with it, but at the same time, I do. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's really, really a tough one. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Now, what I want to do is let's transition forward to the meat of today's stream. I want to transition forward to the meat of today's stream. Thank you very much, Walter Wilburn, for your contribution and for always coming through. I appreciate you, bro. You're always showing love to the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, man. Let's get over to the fact that, and cover the fact that we have a migrant caravan that's headed here today with 5,000 illegal immigrants, of Biden's migrants, of Harris's migrants, I should say, headed to the border now, right? They're headed to the border now as we speak in in the hopes of being able to cross the border before a potential Trump victory. I want to pull this tweet up for you guys right now, and then I'm going to play the video that goes along with it. This tweet right here, I like this guy a lot. I'm hoping that maybe I could possibly get him on the channel. This man's name is Oscar Blue. Many of you are familiar with Oscar Blue already. Many of you know who this guy is. He does amazing work covering the migrant crisis as an on-the-ground reporter. He's literally in the belly of the beast, crossing the Darien Gap with Harris's migrants, getting these live testimonies and on-the-ground visuals of what's actually happening in real time on the other side of the border. He does a phenomenal job at covering this stuff. And he reported on this a few days ago. Breaking: massive caravan leaving on election day of US. Around speculated number of 5,000 migrants will be leaving the southern border in direction to the border of the United States. Here's the video that he had here connected to this tweet. I'm not going to play the entire 4 minutes and 35 seconds of it, but I do want to play, I want to say at least the first minute and a half, right? I want to play the first minute and a half of my man Oscar's video. So let's get into this very quickly.
Continues under the Biden administration.
I'm rewind it back just a little bit. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. And please follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. That is extremely important that you follow me on Telegram. The links are in the description and in the live chat.
The disaster continues under the Biden administration, Kamala Harris and Alejandro Mayorkas. I have walked 11 caravans. 10 of them have been under the Biden administration and only one of them under the Trump administration. On this Tuesday, when elections are coming, when elections for the American citizens are going to be done, when the elections are going to be held in the United States of America, the most important elections in the world between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, a massive caravan. It is going to leave the south of the border of Mexico, again in direction to the United States of America. These are the consequences. This is the collateral damage of open border policies by the Kamala Harris and Biden administration. The administration where more migrants have died in the limitations of Mexico with the United States of America. The administration where the cartel has grown immensely in terms to technology and also economical growth. And not only that, in territory-wise, where they are fighting and killing each other in open border gaps between the borders of Mexico and the United States of America. Another caravan will leave this 5th of November when elections are happening, when you, the American taxpayer, is exercising their constitutional right. A massive, massive caravan of migrants will leave the south border of Tapachula in direction to the United States of America.
Now, he gave an update today, a live on the ground update today. Like I said, this guy is phenomenal. I think very highly of him, to say the very least, with the work that he's doing on the border. He posted this today, I want to say about an hour ago. This is him on the other side of the border, walking in front of the caravan, in which tweet reads, breaking massive caravan, Biden, Kamala, and Mayorkas, you did this with your open border policies and your global compact of migration. I want to play once again, maybe roughly around a minute of this video as well. This is what's currently happening right now as you're all going to cast your votes. What's currently happening right now is this. Let's get into this clip here.
Biden-Harris administration.
Rewind it back just a little bit.
Under the Biden-Harris administration, this crisis continues to exacerbate and this crisis continues to grow as more than 350,000 children are lost in the United States borders. People are being trafficked, people are being abused. Migrants are losing their lives in the parts of the Darien Gap, extortion and kidnapping the borders with Guatemala and Mexico and in the borders with Mexico and the United States. Plus, you have a massive activity of the organized crime and the cartel operating in the borders with Mexico and the United States. This problem was created by the global compact of migration, bad policies of the Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas administration. This is your problem. This is what you have created with your policies of open border policies. And this is the collateral damage that continues to affect not only countries in Central America, but in South America. Oscar Blue, live, walking on a caravan, bringing you guys the reality and truth of the news like no other network.
And this is happening right now. These folks that you're seeing walking over here, this is happening right now. As you're all voting right now, casting your vote, hopefully for Trump, we literally have thousands and thousands of Harris's migrants headed over to the border right now with the hopes of crossing before potential Trump victory. And this is only going to continue. This is only going to extend another 4 years under Kamala Harris. You can rest assured and believe. I don't care what you hear about the flow of migrants currently being stemmed and border crossings are at an alleged record low and all this foolishness. I don't care what you hear about any of that kind of stuff. It's all nonsense.
Oscar Blue.
The moment that Kamala gets back into office, if she gets back into office, we're going to see another 10 to 15 million illegal immigrants cross the border once again, coming to a city near you and depleting all of the resources of your city as well as of our federal government as well. And we're going to get into the financial aspect of all of this at the end of this stream. We're going to get into the financial aspect of this at the end of the stream. But what I first want to do now is that I want to shift over to, but we're still going to be covering this, what's happening with the migrants crossing right now, on a recent episode of Joe Rogan, right? So let me pull this up right now and I'll pull this back on the screen. I want to read this tweet right here. Joe Rogan presses Senator John Fetterman on the Democrats' playbook to move millions of illegal migrants to swing states, grant them amnesty, and achieve one-party rule by turning them blue. Democrats are importing voters. I want you to see what happened when Rogan pressed Senator Fetterman. Because Senator Fetterman, in my opinion, he completely collapsed. When he got pressed, he completely collapsed. Let's get into this clip right here.
Democrats saying, hey, though, we need a secure first Democrats saying, hey, though, we need a secure border. It's a significant issue. And if I thought there was any kinds of issues, and I've been very vigilant throughout, I've been actively involved in those kinds of things, and I've never witnessed those kinds of a thing.
But what do you mean by issues? Like what kind of issues you're talking about? You're talking about people letting people in order to get votes?
Well, it's not. There's not that level kinds. I don't think there's that level kinds of organization.
But there is an organization that's moving these people to swing states. There's a significant number of these people that are illegal immigrants that have made their way to swing states. And then there's been calls for amnesty. There's been calls for allowing these people to have a pathway to citizenship and allow them to vote. The fear that a lot of people have is that this is a coordinated effort to take these people that you're allowing to come into the country, then you're providing them with all sorts of services like food stamps and housing and setting them up, and then providing a pathway to amnesty, and then you would have voters that would be significantly voting towards the Democrats because they're the people that enabled them to come into the country in the first place and provided them with those services. This is a big fear that people have, and that you're rigging this system and that this will turn all these states into essentially locked blue like California is.
Well, it's immigration is always going to be a tough issue in our nation. I had as a professor.
Immigration is always going to be a tough issue in our nation. It's literally not a tough issue. It's literally a problem because the Democrats intentionally made it an issue. I can't stand responses like that, but let's let them carry on. Let's take it from the top with Featherman. And just like I said, to me, he just completely crumbles because everything that Rogan stated is true, and he doesn't really have an answer for it.
Yes.
Well, immigration is always going to be a tough issue in our nation. I had as a professor in grad school, Alan Simpson, and he was a United States senator. He was Wyoming, and he was actually a pro-choice Republican. I mean, how rare that would be. Well, it doesn't exist now. And he said, you are never going to have any meaningful immigration kinds of legislation. He's like, because both sides, that's useful for them, and it's going to be back and forth, back and forth. And he said that 25 years ago.
Useful meaning the debate, having it always a
It's
political talking
useful
point.
for one side or the other. It's
Right.
useful, and he said they were never going to be, and he said that in 1999, and I voted for the border deal, and that went down. And that's, I mean, he said that 25 years ago, and that was absolutely true now, that they had an opportunity to do a comprehensive border, bipartisan, and that went down because Trump, he declared that's a bad deal after it was negotiated with the other side.
But didn't that deal also involve amnesty? And didn't that deal also involve a significant number of illegal aliens being allowed into the country every year? I think it was 2 million people. So it was still the same sort of situation, and their fear is exactly what I talked about.
See, like, this is what I talked about so many months ago when I first covered that bill. Essentially, in a nutshell, this so-called bipartisan bill was going to, what's the term called? Codify the migrant crisis. It's a perpetual, endless migrant crisis forever if that bill passes. You have an endless flow of Harris's migrants coming into the country in which they immediately get on a fast track to citizenship. They come here immediately, you're getting on a fast track to citizenship, just like that. And that's what they want to put into law. So it's an endless migrant crisis. It's never stopping. It never comes to an end if that so-called bipartisan border bill were to pass. That's what we're looking at. And that's the bill that Kamala Harris, she vows to sign into law. Obviously, she would need Congress to do so, but she keeps stating that she's going to sign this into law and fight for that once she gets into office, if she indeed wins, right? So it's a twofold strategy as it pertains for them keeping the borders open and keeping the madness happening with the migrant crisis, right? Number one, they know for a fact that if they don't have the House and the Senate, then, or either, they don't have both, then that bill's not going to pass because it's a garbage bill and no Republican's going to go for it. And even the first time around, there were 6 Democrats, including Bernie Sanders, that voted against it because it's a nonsense bill, right? So that perpetuates the migrant crisis for another 4 years under Harris, because I can always play this game and saying, oh, well, if we could just get this bill to pass, but those mean old MAGA maniacs, they don't want to pass the bill, I guess the migrant crisis is going to stay as is. You have that. She knows it's not going to pass. So therefore, under her administration, she could pretend to be fighting to close the border while actually wanting to keep it open at the same time, because she knows good and well that no one's going to vote for that bill. But then number two, even if she is to pass the bill, even if she passes it, well, then once again, the migrant crisis continues. So if this woman wins, either way it goes, the migrant crisis continues. Only the with the reality being, and the most extreme part being, that if she's able to get that bill into law, the migrant crisis is essentially codified and it's here forever. It's here forever. And another thing that I want to touch on too, with what Joe Rogan is saying, let's hit on this as well. I want to pull this back up concerning so-called migrants, right? Harris's migrants. Is this it right here? No. Harris's migrants being placed in battleground states, right? I don't have the tweet up. I can just pull up the photo because I did download the image. I just hate how it's going to look. It's going to look so just fugazi on the screen right now, but I guess I don't have a choice in the moment. Give me a second while I pull this photo up. Where is it at? As I'm looking for this photo, this graphic, please hit the like button if you haven't already. And please subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. If you appreciate this content, if you like what I'm doing here, please hit the subscribe button. Please do that and like the video. I'm not sure why I can't find this photo, but I will pull it up right now via a tweet. Let me pull this off the screen for a moment, and let me just go into my bookmarks very quickly, because I have it, and I thought that I had it ready to go, but I don't. And also, once again, while you're waiting for me to pull it up, if you haven't followed me on Telegram, please do so. That is extremely important that you follow me on Telegram. And where are we at? I need this graphic. Here it goes. All right, I got it right here. Let me show you guys this. Let me pull this now back on the screen for you. So now that I have the graphic up, look at this here. These are the number of Harris's migrants that have been sent to swing states. These are all margin of error number migrants right here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better. He was just quote retweeting the video that I just played saying Rogan is correct concerning this. Look at this here. Unauthorized migrant population. Georgia, 45,000. North Carolina, 32,000. Pennsylvania, 25,000. Arizona, 24,000. Nevada, 15,000. Michigan, 13,000. Wisconsin, 10,000. These are margin of error migrant. Okay? These are margin of error numbers that they're placing in these battleground states. Percent increase from 2021, Arizona 734%, Michigan 775%, Georgia 401%, North Carolina 446%, Pennsylvania 241%, Nevada 562%, Wisconsin 467%. Once again, these are margin of error numbers that they're placing in these battleground states. And once again, what Harris wants to do is provide all of these folks with a fast track to citizenship. And those numbers are only going to explode and balloon more under a Harris presidency. Because once again, like I said, if she wins, the migrant crisis continues. It continues. It's just a matter of which way it continues. Will it continue as it has been under the Biden and Harris administration currently right now, where they're just letting in 10 to 15 million in a 4-year period? Or will it happen in a slightly more organized fashion if they pass the so-called bipartisan bill, which essentially codifies the migrant crisis? So yeah, the numbers will slightly dip, but it's an endless influx of migrants year after year after year after year after year after year after year, where they would just be immediately put on a fast track to citizenship. The country will never go red again. You'll never see a conservative or Republican president ever again. You're talking about a one-party rule in America when you're looking at these margin of error numbers concerning illegal immigrants being placed and shipped to these battleground states and then given amnesty and a fast track to citizenship. The whole country turns into California effectively at that point. The entire country turns into California. Now, what I want to do in closing, let's get into the cost of all of this. I want to get into the cost of all of this. Migrant crisis cost $150 billion in 2023. I don't think I'm going to have time to go through this entire article. I may or may not. It's not that long, but it may be a little daunting just to sit and listen to me read for the next couple of minutes. Though this is important, I will make sure to leave the link to this article in the in the chat in the description box below post stream. I will make it a point to do that just in case I don't finish this article. But let's just get a little brief overview of what's going on here, right? Let's look at this here. The eye-watching financial cost of the migrant crisis hit $150 billion last year and is causing devastating consequences for residents of hard-hit cities struggling to cope with the influx, the Post has learned. Of the figure calculated by Washington, D.C. based nonprofit Federation of American Immigration Reform, $67 billion came from the federal government, but the majority of the burden was shouldered by states and local governments. This is why you have cities like Chicago, in which they're currently in $1 billion deficit. City of Chicago is in $1 billion deficit behind Brandon Johnson funding the migrant crisis, to which now he's going to increase property taxes. He's going to increase property taxes exponentially, something that he said he wasn't going to do when he was running for office. Brandon Johnson said, I'm not going to raise property taxes while he was running for office. And then once he got into office, now to cover the migrant crisis, because he's $1 billion in a hole in Chicago, now he's going to raise property taxes so that they can fund the migrant crisis over there, right? But obviously, Chicago isn't the only place. Let's get into this here. Look at this. Remember FEMA? Right, assisting and financing the migrant crisis. Remember how that was all fake news? Like, oh no, FEMA isn't giving money to fund the migrant crisis. That's not happening. Remember, that was misinformation, disinformation, fake news, right? Malinformation, right? Well, wrong. FEMA shelter and service grants 2024, total awarded $640 million. 10 state and local offices which received most funds. NYC Office of Management budget $81 million. El Paso County, Texas, $41 million. Pima County, Arizona, $40 million. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, $27 million. City of Chicago, $26 million. City County of Denver, $23 million. City of Los Angeles, $22 million. State of Arizona, $19 million. District of Columbia, $19 million. City of Philadelphia, $11 million. $11 million. But let's now come over here. FEMA and Shelter Service Grants 2024, 10 non-governmental organizations which received the most funds. Trust me when I tell you, these people, these NGOs, they do not want the migrant crisis to end as well. They are making money hand over fist with this migrant crisis. It's not just a cartel that's making a lot of money, billions of dollars. These NGOs are making and pocketing millions of dollars behind this migrant crisis, these nonprofits. Look at this very quickly. I was just curious because I knew for a fact, as many of you know, that nonprofits, they don't have to spend like all the money exclusively on their quote mission, right? They don't have to spend all the money. Only roughly a little over half of it. The rest they can pocket in multiple different ways, right? Nonprofits are not legally obligated to spend a specific percentage of their funds, but industry standards and donor expectations generally suggest that a significant portion, often considered to be at least 65% or more, should be spent directly on programs to further their mission, with the remaining funds allocated to administrative costs and fundraising activities, whatever that stuff is actually supposed to mean, whatever that means, right? Those are just nice, fancy ways of, pocketing the money in very creative ways and fashions of doing it. Now, let's go through the 10 NGOs which received the most funds from this FEMA shelter and service grant in 2024 that was awarded up to the tune of $640 million. Catholic Charities of San Diego, $41 million. Catholic Charities of San Antonio, $28 million. Jewish Family Service San Diego, $22 million. Save the Children of Fairfield, Connecticut, right? $16 million. Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, $16 million. A lot of Catholic charities that we're reading off here are getting broke off a lot of money. This is very interesting. These Catholic charities are getting tens of millions of dollars. The money is flowing. The money is flowing. Border Servant Corps Incorporated, Donna Ana, New Mexico, $15 million. Mission Border Hope, Maverick, CO, Texas, $12 million. World Hunger, what does that say? I can't read that word. World Hunger Blank Task Force, Maricopa, Arizona, $12 million. World Hunger Task Force in Yuma, Arizona, $10 million. And Regional Center for Border Health, Arizona, $8 million. Denver City Council has to cut, and this is the negative impact that's happening right now in these cities and states, right? Let's go through some of the negative impact in closing. Denver City Council has cut $45 million from its budget, including $8.4 million for its police department and $2.5 million for the fire department to pay an estimated $90 million bill for migrants. They're cutting police department funds and fire department funds to cover a $90 million bill in Denver. New York City is spending $2.3 billion in costs for housing migrants alone in 2023 and 2024, resulting in city agencies having to cut costs by 5%. In South Portland, Maine, property taxes have increased to pay for the migrant crisis, and the mayor has advised elderly residents to remortgage their houses to pay them. That is crazy. That is insane. I'm going to read that one more time. In South Portland, Maine, property taxes have increased to pay for the migrant crisis, and the mayor has advised elderly residents to remortgage their houses to pay for them. Wow. And Chicago faces a $1 billion budget gap, partially over migrant services, which is now scrambling to make up. And once again, as you know, I've told you, as I've stated earlier, in Chicago, they are now raising property taxes as well. Something that Brandon Johnson said that he wouldn't do, but he's now doing. They're jacking up property taxes in order to fund and cover the migrant crisis happening over there. Look at the degree to which the migrant crisis has completely bankrupt so many states and so many cities. And we could sit here and say, oh, well, those are liberal states, those are liberal cities, so you get what you vote for. But when you're talking about Tren de Aragua, it doesn't matter if you voted for it or not, because they're all in Texas. And we know Texas didn't vote for the migrant crisis. They're not voting for Harris. They didn't vote for Biden. They voted for Trump. They did last election. They will this election. So the folks in Texas, this is not what they voted for, but Tren de Aragua is still an issue over there, where they're taking over little apartment complexes and whatnot over there, right? So, you know, you can't just look at this stuff and say, oh, well, this is only happening in liberal cities. No, literally everybody is affected by this. Everybody. It's not something that you can bury your head in the sand and say, oh, well, you know, that's over there. No, it's everywhere, especially as I covered a moment ago in these swing states. In the swing states, you have all these margin of error number of migrants that have now been flown into these states. And if Harris wins, the number one goal is a fast track to citizenship for her. If she wins, the number one goal is a mass amnesty bill, an amnesty for all bill to make all these folks citizens. I want to end it with that graphic on the screen. Let's go back over here. Look at these margin of error number of migrants that have gone into these swing states. 45K in Georgia, up 400%. 32K in North Carolina, up 446%. 25K in Pennsylvania, up 241%. 24K in Arizona, up 734%. 15K in Nevada, up 562%. 13K in Michigan, up 775%, and up 10K in Wisconsin, up 467%. Every state's going to turn to California if Harris wins, and she's able to secure a amnesty bill, which gives everybody a fast track to citizenship. Every state ultimately will turn into California. And that's why it is so important, extremely important, as I say, not to get out there and vote. Go vote. You know, that generic, just go vote. No, not go vote. Vote for Trump. Vote for Trump. Okay, it's Trump 2024 over here all day, every day. And hopefully that will be the end result of this election. But we'll just have to wait and see. we will have to wait and see. And we're definitely not going to get any answers in terms of a winner, who a winner is, anytime soon, unless there's just some sort of a landslide victory on either side. But I don't necessarily see that. It should be, all indicators say that it should be that, if we're going on past performance with the way Donald Trump consistently outperforms polling, right? Kamala Harris is the worst polling Democrat to go up against Donald Trump ever, in between comparing her to Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, right? She's the worst polling. He beat Hillary Clinton, easy peasy, and Biden barely, by the skin of his teeth, was able to beat Trump. So if Kamala Harris, if we're just going by just logic, if Kamala Harris is the worst polling Democrat against Trump ever, by a lot, then that should spell a relatively easy victory for Trump. But I'm not going to put all my eggs in that basket and say that that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be extremely tight. And my prediction, what I believe, what I assume, right, in closing, as I stated at the top of this stream, and it's just what I think, I do think it's ultimately going to come down to the Supreme Court. I think there's going to be a lot of shenanigans in play. A lot of lawsuits are going to be filed. Things are going to get very and extremely confusing. And I think it's going to come down to the Supreme Court having to make a decision. And with that decision, I do believe it will come down in the favor of Trump, to which, once again, I will be very happy to see. So with all that, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Let me make sure to finish giving my thank yous for those of you who supported today's stream. I appreciate you guys, and thank you very much. I don't exist without you guys' support, so I do have to make sure to give my thank yous to those who I haven't given my thank yous yet. And please hit the like button on your way out if you're headed out of here. Please hit that like button and subscribe. Please subscribe if you're new to the channel. And don't forget to follow me on Telegram. That is so important that you follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link is in the description box below and pinned in the live chat above. Shout out to my man Saul, who keeps my family fed, right? In the midst of, this horrible Harris economy that we've been living under. I've been able to keep my family fed because of Saul, right? And he said, I might have to detox from TD the next few days. Too stressful. Already voted for Trump. My man, I already did too. Bro. I already voted for Trump too. And if you want to take a detox from the channel for the next couple of days because things have been too stressful, I appreciate it. But just make sure you come back if Harris wins, because if Harris wins, the horrible economy is going to continue. Inflation is going to continue to go up, and I'm not going to be able to feed my family without you, bro. I'm going to need your super chats to help me feed my family if Harris wins this election. So please come back if she wins. Definitely if she wins, right? Shout out to the Geek Surgeon who said, TD Media Group, check if I'm blocked. You shouldn't be blocked. You shouldn't be blocked at all, the Geek Surgeon, but I'll check after the stream is over. But there is no reason for you to be blocked. I think if you're blocked, the super chat wouldn't have came up. But I'll double check for that. There's no reason for you to be blocked. You my man, 100 grand. So there's no reason for you to be blocked. But I'll double check and look into that. And shout out to my man DSB, 21 months of service. I appreciate you, bro. He's been a channel member for 21 months. He says, keep up the amazing work, TD, my warrior brother. I appreciate you and your 21 months of service, DSB, and all the support that you show this channel. So that does it for today's stream. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I want to try and get up some more information today as the day goes on. I'm going to try my best to put out some more information outside of the stream. But just once again, please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. And also, please don't forget, it's so extremely important that you follow me on Telegram. I know I keep saying that over and over again. Please follow me on Telegram to help circumvent just the shadow banning and all the censorship that goes on these internet streets, and especially if Kamala Harris, God forbid, wins the election. We're going to see a whole new level of censorship if Kamala wins this election. Man, Saul came through one more time. He said, my buddy wore his Puerto Rico hat and voted for Donald Trump. He wore the Puerto Rico hat, voted for Donald Trump. That's what's up. That's what's up, man. And shout out to my man, Sebo27. He said, TD, bring the facts. I appreciate you, man. I try to. I try to. So, man, thank you guys for joining me today. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Peace and have a great afternoon. And hey, man, Trump 2024. Trump 2024.